This podcast is sponsored by The Crazy Cast and Human Wire Productions at human-wire.com.
And the Gypsy Haven, Elgin's only witch shop at www.thegypsyhaven.com and onlinewiccansupplies.com.
Two witches.
You mean like witchcraft?
Sharing their opinions and beliefs about the practice and theory of magic.
Must be the season of the witch. Must be the season of the witch, yeah. Must be the season of the witch.
Hi guys, this is Feather.
And LeFay.
And welcome back to Season of the Witch.
Happy Mercury going into direct day.
No more
Finally
retrograde.
done.
So, yeah, all of those crazy things that have been going on with your phones and your computers and your TVs and just freaky shit, you know, they're electronic and stuff that have been like driving you nuts. Hopefully they will start going back to normal really, really soon. And it wasn't just happening to you, it was happening to me and everybody else. So you weren't going crazy.
Baby.
Yeah, so it'll come back again. At least we know what to expect next time it comes back in retrograde. Anyway,
we're still enjoying that full moon energy, and I hope everyone had a wonderful Esbit. And we just kind of wanted to jump right into our series again. We're going to be continuing on with our numerology, tarot, and astrology synopsis.
So this podcast, we're going to go to the next phase, which is the number 2 in numerology. We're going to be talking about the High Priestess in tarot and Taurus in the Zodiac. So get out your pens and pencils and papers and notebooks and that good kind of shit. And prepare to take some notes, and then we'll get to some other... Yeah! All right, now we're going to challenge your brain now. Learn some stuff.
Yeah, this is going to be kind of I wouldn't call it intense, but it's definitely going to be an interesting, deep thought episode or kind of a fun night.
I think it's going to be a lot of fun.
Oh, expect my brain to start exploding here and there.
That's good. All right, the number 2, the vibration of 2, general and general people, okay? Let's talk about the 2. We know that number 1, from what we talked about last time, was all about independence and, you know, the self-motivation,
creation,
everything.
The start of things.
So we're talking about number 2. And just, I mean, common sense. It tells you not just one person, but we're talking about the joining of 2 things now. So 2s tend to excel in relationships more so than a 1 would. Okay?
Yeah, a lot of time it's focused on duality. It's focused on kind of 2 opposing things meeting and creating balance between those things. So you've got the sun and the moon, the king and the queen, and you've got sulfur and quicksilver if you want to go into some more of the element style things. And then you've got, I mean, like, it's a lot of just making sure that it's either or, joy and sorrow, hate and love, rich and poor, all of these dual concepts, which we see consistently occurring in nature.
Yeah, as far as if you do have any 2s in your, you know, your birth signs and all that kind of stuff, and we're not going to sit here and tell you how to do that in this, you know, while we're doing these series, but 2 people tend to be much more sensitive to others outside of what the 1 people typically are. 1 people, they're motivators and stuff, but they typically are a little more self-centered, whereas 2, they actually, again, because they excel in relationships, they are definitely more sensitive to the needs of others. They've got a little bit stronger intuitive psychological understanding than 1s do, because 2s reflect more with
empaths.
lunar energy rather than sun, because the 1 is ruled by sun, where 2 is lunar, which is the moon. So we're talking about more instinct, intuition, and emotion wrapped
feminine
up around.
Energy.
Definitely more feminine. Definitely friendly, reliable, peace-loving type energy revolving around the number 2.
I do have some of the negative traits as, you know, irresolute, indifferent, unable to take responsibility. They can be weak-willed or submissive at times. Pessimistic or dependent.
one of the hardest lessons that the number 2 people need to learn is that they're huge inner critics. Okay, they are their own worst nightmare, basically. So that does lead to just a lot of issues, and they really, really need to learn some self-assertion, because having strong 2 energy around you, unfortunately, because you care about others so deeply and you want to help, some people will take advantage of that, and you can become more of a doormat type individual. So learning some self-assertion is definitely going to benefit you, if that makes any sense at all.
Could you say that, I...
Just do it, damn it.
First question, just so that I can confirm this, because I've read 2 different schools of thought on this, and I'm not asking about finding it, but you've mentioned in the past that if you are on a 2-digit number, that you're going to have the traits of both numbers.
Correct.
So, say a 23 is going to have both those traits. Cool.
Right.
All right, and then, so I can equate this to mine, and when you're saying self-assertion, I've been looking into that, and there's a lot of looking at, like, self-worth, too, and acknowledging that, because empaths tend to put their worth on either the same level or on a lower level than those that they're around, because they're constantly being absorbed into everyone else's emotions as well. So
by choice,
and allowing it to happen. So I'm not saying that, they can't not do that, but that's something that they need to learn that balance.
Correct.
Of taking care of others and acknowledging and respecting others, and doing that the same amount, if not more, when necessary for yourself.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And we covered some of that before in previous podcasts, as far as allowing other people's energy to bring you down, and that if it does and you don't know how to handle it, then you need to learn some balance to do that.
And it starts from within.
Everything starts from within. Absolutely everything. But even some more positive attributes to the number 2 is that they're usually well organized and very analytical.
Logical thinkers.
Yeah, kind of going back and forth, even with that self-doubt, panic happens often because, again, they are their own worst nightmare. And, right. And just remember, I think the biggest thing for 2s is that really the only thing to fear is fear itself. So, being able to go inside and kind of get some shit straight and, get some balance back. And just remember, too, that even though you're really strong in relationships and you love to help people, you can't help anybody until you help yourself.
Right, isn't it? Put the gas mask on yourself first so you can help women and others around you.
Ain't nobody got time for that.
The plane's going down, Yeah, that's... Anyway.
So, I just had a cool little bit of synchronicity, because I've got different information from different sources and everything, and so it was saying that the number 2 is associated with the 2nd chakra, which is all about emotion and feeling everything out, and it's focused with the color orange.
Okay.
Which happens to be, I know that the chakra colors are not the same source where normal color association occurs. So it's, Eastern belief versus Western belief. The colors, I believe, came from somewhere else usually, or they associate it from multiple belief systems, and orange and blue happen to be the color for 2.
Okay.
So it all matches up really nice and tidy.
Cool.
All right. Anything else you can think about for 2?
No. I mean, I do. I love the 2 people. I love being around 2 people, because even I myself, in my own experience and the way that I am, I tend to be pretty self-sufficient, and, I don't know, it's not that I lack emotion, but when it comes to relationships, I can take them or leave them for the most
That's just
part.
People,
And the 2 people, they are really, really good at relationships. Just because of the simple fact that they have the hearts, to care not only for themselves but for other people. And, two people have strong friendships. And I envy that. I'm fully capable of doing that too. It just takes me a little more practice. I really have to assert myself because, fuck people. Fuck them all. That's my attitude.
You're just
a lot of days.
of the ones you deal with.
Yeah, terribly. Right, exactly. So, no, two people. I love you. Just remember to love yourselves too. Okay, because you're amazing people.
All right, cool. On to tarot.
All right. Number 2 in tarot is the High Priestess. So we're still kind of talking about more moon energy because she is ruled by the moon. And just like you said, duality, male, female.
She's got those 2 pillars that are usually sitting next to her. It's
what?
She's the antithesis or the exact opposite.
She's not a Christian!
Wow,
God.
that lady. Anyway, totally lose my train of thought on that one. The pillars. Usually there's...
And it's gone.
Yeah, well, if I keep being interrupted, maybe... I need like 6 more energy drinks in me. Anyway, it stands for... There are 2 letters that are usually on that pillar, and B stands for Boaz, signifying negation, and J stands for Yachen, or Jack. Yeah, sorry, that's the German in me coming out. Yachen, however we want to pronounce it, meaning beginning. So it's about creation and destruction, beginning and ends.
Yeah, and as we spoke about the Magician last episode, the number 1, this one is different because the Magician represents power of will, whereas the High Priestess is the power of mental and emotion. Or being, it's mental and emotional power. It is the moon aspect of us, whether you're male or female. It's that intuition that we all have.
Kind of the subconscious knowledge.
Pretty much. It's our inner secrets, things that aren't on the surface yet because they are deep within us, back in our subconscious mind. So it revolves a lot around even unexplored potential, where again the Magician is knowing your potential and knowing the skills, the talents that you have and applying them. This High Priestess is talking about that unexplored potential, if that makes any sense.
So when people have a quandary and she shows up, a lot of the times it may be you're so focused on the things that are known to you, open up to the potential for other things to show themselves?
Yeah, I mean, it's basically when she shows up, I wrote it down because I like the way that it states it. It says that something can only be understood through experience. So it doesn't matter how much you sit there and you think about something. And you dwell and dwell and dwell and dwell. You're never going to truly know until you actually do it.
So this is kind of an action card. Or, okay, maybe not an action, but more of a...
It's more of a moment to take the time to
reflection?
Go within and reflect.
Okay.
Correct. Before action, because it's actually
She's pretty stagnant.
Yeah, it's a non-action card.
Okay.
It's unconscious awareness potential.
And that's my brain tick tick tick. I want to keep going faster and do the action, which is why she fits so well for me because I don't ever take time for her.
It is a lot like, I mean, we're not talking about the Hermit, but it goes hand in hand. I mean, it's an introverted card, so again, it's that she is kind of, when I look at her, she's kind of like the keeper of secrets, and secrets will eventually be revealed.
Right.
But it's not quite there yet. Does that make sense?
Right, and you have to keep your third eye open almost, be more conscious or aware of things as they come.
A lot of times too, in tarot, it could also represent a person. If that's the case, then it's probably going to be somebody extremely moody. Probably female. It's all the women that are PMSing, it's like, oh, you're the moody High Priestess, it's just like, I don't know why I feel the way that I do, I just want to cry. Yeah, it's so a whole lot of moody moon power. And just like when the moon is full and all the freaks come out at night, we don't know why we're doing the shit that we're doing. You know, that is a lot of power of the moon. So, yeah, she has a lot of that, too. So it's also concerned with underlying... Ow, yeah. Howl, wolf boy, howl. Concerned with underlying patterns and hidden meanings. Again, they're secrets. You know, it's not necessarily a secret that you're holding from somebody else. It's just the truth hasn't been revealed yet.
Right. You don't know the whole story yet.
Right. So, and the fact that she's holding the two scrolls, if the people out there listening actually have tarot in front of them, or even look up a picture online or something like that, it even shows there with her holding the scrolls that she has a desire for understanding.
Right.
Okay? It's not that, you know, it's not necessarily that she really knows it all right this second.
It's the continued learning.
Mm-hmm. So, if she's not a moody woman, you know, and that sometimes can be in the contrary, you know, in the reverse position of the card. Upright, too, it could actually represent a very wise woman.
You're kind of a mentor figure at times, or someone who's going to show you more of that truth that you're looking for.
I think that would be more the Hierophant.
Okay.
On a spiritual, you know, for something like that, you know, as far as mentor goes. No, it's more of a woman that kind of has a little more balance to her. She's kind of got her shit together a little bit more because she's not just going off of thinking and reacting.
Right.
You know, it's more of going inside, tapping into that subconscious part of the brain, because that's where all of our answers are.
Right.
You know, tapping into that. And then, you know, being able to say, you know what? No, I'm not going to do this. I'm not going to do that until some of this truth is revealed to me. Does that kind of make sense?
Yeah, and I'm just wondering if when the reader is seeing it, if it's not them but it's someone around them, then just to keep be aware of that person, or would you want to?
No, I'm going to say that if it shows up, it's more of, you know, to look within yourself.
Okay, so it's a very self-focused card.
You be wise,
even when it's in an environment position or something. Like it's. I'm just trying to make sure that if it shows up in a weird one where it's like, you know, past events or past things, then that just was you in the past.
Yeah, well, you don't want to get into placement and stuff with the basics of tarot because, yeah, we'll be here all night.
Right.
Okay, well, what happens if it was an external factor? You know, I mean, with all the different positions and stuff of tarot. But, yeah, I mean, those are kind of like the general basics of the card. But she is definitely, she's like my moon queen. You know, the keeper of secrets and unpredictability, you know, and just needing to know stuff that you just really don't know, you know, but you will know. I don't know. I like looking at her.
It's kind of a cool Horizon card.
Yeah. All right, you go over there, pretty lady. All right, I want to talk about the bulls.
Hard-headed, stubborn Taurus.
I'm going to defend you Taurus people, because I am an Earth sign too. I'm not a Taurus, but you bulls, you like masters of like fertility and all that good stuff.
The reliable, patient, and practical ones too. Yeah. I'm not saying that they're all bad.
No, they are. They love comfort. They're very secure around things that they've worked hard for, and you know that they have a big appreciation for money. And if they're going to work hard for money, then they're very concerned about where the money goes.
Prudent,
and they can be. So part of that comfort comes from, I worked hard, I love what I have, and I'm comfortable with it. Mm-hmm. Now, if you take it away from me, I'm going to freak the fuck out.
And yeah, they don't do well with change, right? Or dramatic change?
No, not really. Yeah, I'm not going to jump all to the negative stuff.
No, I'm just making sure it's like that's something that they can't. Everyone's got, you know, positives and negatives.
Right, absolutely. They're, in comparison to the faster acting, like Aries, because we talked about Aries last time, which is very, very fast paced. Mm-hmm. Taurans tend to be slower, paced, okay? And a lot of the earth signs are in comparison to fire signs. That's why a lot of people will think that earth signs tend to be boring. All right, so we lack in a little of the speed, but this is a strong earth sign, and when they put their mind to something, they get it done. Right. They definitely get it done. They get it done from beginning to end. So that is, yeah. And the other thing about the Taurus, too, is that you're right, they are stubborn motherfuckers. They're fixed signs. All fixed signs are stubborn as hell.
Right,
but
that's going to be the strongest of that person, or like the most of the most.
Yeah. Nope. But the cool thing about Taurans, too, is that they're very charming. Very, very charming.
Likable.
Mm-hmm. They're practical and reliable. So if you need somebody to help ground you a little bit, a Tauran would be an ideal person.
That's that girlfriend you go shopping with at the mall when you need a relaxation day, and she's just gonna be good to hang out with. And
well, she's also gonna be the one that says, you know what, bitch, you just spent $250 on all this shit, and
that's
why you need to chill out.
That's what I'm saying, exactly, because I want that friend that's gonna make sure that I'm not being stupid with my money. She's the wise friend to bring with.
Right.
The Aries is the one you have to not bring with, because we're gonna go and spend it on everything.
They are very patient. It's a very patient sign, which is also nice. When it comes to relationships, they do show a lot of patience. They're very loyal and productive, no matter what, how they apply themselves. They're very productive. I
was reading about courting Taurans.
Okay.
Because that's just the... it's good to be, like when I was saying slow and steady, that means a lot of the times the guys are kind of slow to make the first move, and female, if you're trying to date a Tauran man, then you have to be a little more assertive with him, but without trying to expect too fast of anything to happen. So not rushing him or making him feel rushed, and the same for females. They don't want to feel pushed to move too soon beyond their comfort zones.
Okay. But once you actually land a Tauran, remember, stubborn, and they can be very inflexible. And one of the big owies of them in relationships is that they can be extremely possessive. Very, very possessive earth sign, and their possessiveness can lead to jealousy.
Insecurity
issues.
Point.
It's almost kind of like, you know what, I've worked long and hard for you, and now I own you. And I'm not saying that all Taurans think that way, but a lot of them do.
Right, this is my boyfriend, my girlfriend.
I own you, so don't piss me off, kind of thing. And if they are provoked to jealousy and then provoked to anger, the scary thing about Taurans is that their anger is volcanic. Silence! They fucking explode. I kill you! Yeah,
it's just like a real bull.
Yeah, 10 times worse than that. Yeah, silence, I kill you. But again, they are... I don't know. It
is just like a real bull. Like, they're fine grazing out in the... If you leave them alone, they'll be happy to just sit in the field and eat. But as soon as you piss them off...
Or once they claim you as their bitch, then you are their bitch. And, don't you even think about looking at the other bull in the other pasture with bigger balls. Because, that's just not cool. And, this bull's going to go fucking crazy. Taurans also do like routines. Okay, they're not as big on spontaneity. So anybody that knows a Tauran child,
make sure they have a good set routine to keep them comfortable.
They function well with routine. Okay, and I know plenty of Taurans that even in their adulthood, they prefer that over just like, oh, by the way, let's we're gonna go do this. In 3 minutes, you're going to have some resistance from your bull.
Irritation
if you do that.
At least.
Yeah. Security and structure in their lives are big concerns. Just like what I said earlier, they will work hard for their money because they like their comfort. But security in their comfort zone, in their materialistic world, is huge. to them.
Right. They're going to make sure that they feel comfortable in their clothes. I mean, like, they're not going to be flashy about it.
No.
But they're going to make sure that they buy good, sturdy shoes that are really comfortable. Colors. I mean, like, it's color. I've got, just the little factoids that are fun. So, I mean,
Responsive to beauty, even when it comes to colors and that kind of stuff.
They do like to be visually pleased. They like to be comfortable in pretty much every aspect, which is, when it goes from what they feel to what they see to what they wear, etc. But I've just got a blue, pink, and green as kind of like favorite colors for them.
Okay.
Days of the week, they can either be on a Friday or a Monday. So Monday being one that syncs up with the number 2. Or, yeah.
Well, they're actually ruled by Venus.
Right.
So that's why Friday links with that, because that is their ruling planet.
Okay.
Which is, we know, almost everybody knows a little thing about Venus and Cupid, that's love and relationships and that kind of stuff. So that's one of the reasons why they are so gung-ho on the strength of a relationship. Because they're very emotional about that.
Right. They're going to be ruled by that feminine.
And that's why if you piss them off, then they're volcanic, because they're emotions.
Okay.
And even what we were talking about briefly last time, because I said that there are certain astrological zodiac signs, that fall into different categories, being emotional, theoretical, and then intellectual.
Okay.
And Taurans are also emotional, just like
so
Aries.
Because they're the fixed signs, they're going to be on the emotional spectrum?
Not necessarily because they're fixed.
Okay.
It's because the first 4 of...
Okay.
Okay? So that would be your Aries, your Taurus, your Gemini, and your Cancer. So all 4 of those fall under the emotional.
What are Gemini and Cancer in? Are they...
Yeah, I just said that. The top,
no, I know, but Gemini and Cancer, are they fixed, cardinal, or mutable?
We'll go into that one next time.
Okay.
Don't jump the gun, Aries. But Taurans are also... Aries is more of a masculine, active energy. Okay, very fast-paced. Boom, 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 boom. Where Taurans are female energy. So
Right.
it tends to be more passive, a little slower. It's emotional. And on that slower note, too, one of the things that you have to be concerned, or not concerned, all right, it's not a concern, aware of, thank you, is that because they're slow moving, even though they're consistent, sometimes they can get in a little funk, and they can become lazy. Yeah, Taurans, you know who you are, you
when
lazy
they get stuck
fuckers.
in a rut.
Yep, and that, that's okay. But we all get lazy. Just, it's... When you're a fire sign, it's easier to get out of the lazy mode rather than a very fixed earth sign that's already slow moving.
It's gotta be tough then.
So,
I mean, like, things like depression would be something to be worried about, do you think?
It makes sense.
Yeah, something where it's like a long-term, consistent thought process that keeps digging you deeper and deeper into something.
Well, yeah, because you have so many female aspects, revolving around this zodiac, then, it is.
I'm just guessing.
Seen.
I would based on what I'm hearing, think that might be a. And
look at all the contributing factors
up,
to it.
I'll look it up too. I'm sure there's some sort of association I can find somewhere.
All right. And then last time we kind of broke it down. We didn't go into extremes too. That just because you're born on this date, and your sun sign says that you're a Taurus. We were talking about the decantes, whatever the hell you want to call them, because from April 20th to May 20th, if your birthday falls in that, then your sun sign is a Taurus. However, again, there's 3 different categories of a Taurus according to birth date. So any of you Taurans out there that have a birthday from April 20th through the 30th, you are full-blooded Taurus, baby. You are Taurus through and through. And everything that we were just talking about very much affects your sun sign. In comparison to birthdays of May 1st through 10th, and I actually met a lady today, a young lady who, she was a twin.
Oh, that's cool.
They fell into that May 1st through the 10th. So that makes them Taurus with Virgo attributes. So Virgo's another Earth. It's a different type of Earth.
Right.
In comparison from May 11th through May 20th, then you are Taurus Capricorn. So you are going to have a whole lot of bull and a lot of goat. Woo! Yeah,
Very logical and stubborn.
Holy crap. Yeah, once we get to Capricorn, that's Capricorn Aquarius, that's my, I'm going to explode all over that. But that's me, baby. Goat all the way. So, anything else you want to add to our Taurans or Taurus people?
I have a couple of famous people that I found. So, we've got Cher, who had her Sun and Mercury in Taurus.
I love Cher.
George Clooney, who also had his Sun and Mercury in Taurus.
Okay.
We did say last week that Hitler was an Aries, but he technically, if we're going on the numbers, April 20th.
Cusp.
Yeah, so that's that weird. So he is either one or the other. George Lucas had all three, his Sun, Mercury, and Venus in Taurus.
Okay.
And so did Renee Zellweger.
Okay.
So a lot of actors and Hollywood people.
Cher.
Hard workers.
Yeah, absolutely. Stubborn.
Stand
Anyway,
up for they want.
Okay, yep. But got to respect them for that. So, alrighty, we've gone through all of that. So that means that the next podcast we're going to go over the number 3. We're going to go over the Empress, and we just did Taurus, so we're going to be going on to Cancer. Yeah. No, Gemini. Brain fart.
Yay!
Yeah, we'll be going on to the sign of the twins. So if you're interested in any of those 3, then tune into our next podcast. So on to 2 completely different topics. Now you can take a break and you can put your pen and pencil down. You can stop taking notes and you can just hear us banter back and forth about
That's your learning for the evening.
Go get a cookie. You deserve a cookie. You survived the educational part. Right.
All right, going on to something totally not heavy duty on the head, really. I was so excited about it yesterday that I wanted to at least bring it up, and I figured we could talk about it as just kind of an in-between subject. So yesterday I got to experience my first float tank.
Cool.
It's pretty intense. Basically, it's more focused on sensory deprivation. You're floating in this tank of really high Epsom salt water. So it's almost slimy with how much salt is in there. It sounds weird, but you're basically you're floating in this tank that is set to the exact temperature of your body. Okay. So after a while of floating in there in complete darkness, not touching anything, not seeing anything, not hearing anything, you lose all sense of yourself in that water. Mm-hmm. And it was really intense. And
how long did they have you in there for?
We started out with an hour, and that felt really long for me. My brain was going a million miles a minute for at least the first half of it, but you can go in there for, I think, like an hour and a half, almost 2 hours. I think 2 might be like a top off. You can go in there for as long as you want, I think, when you have your own private one. I don't know if there's like a limit, but they did have this big waiver to sign. So I don't know if you want to put yourself in there for too long, because there was like a concern of, mental breakdown.
Okay.
If it's and I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, if I hadn't had some meditative, like some ideas of different ways of meditating in there, I think
I would be trapped with your own demons for an hour.
Right. And I mean, you're not trapped by any means. I was kind of expecting it to be more like a pod, but it was more like a sauna room, like a big shower, kind of like I don't know, it was like two jacuzzis, like in size, and it was like this little room, and it had a glass window, so it almost felt like a shower room with this tub. So, and the tub wasn't super deep, but really your body just can't float deeper than like halfway in. Right. So even bigger, smaller, whatever, you've got enough space where you're not going to be touching the bottom.
Okay.
But you can stand up, and it's not deep at all. It's not something that you freak out about.
Freak out.
I could see, there's a lot of people, I'm sure, that because it definitely feels embryonic. Uh-huh. Like in this, you're completely isolated.
Okay.
And yeah, so I wanted to, just go over how that was so interesting, and it's just one way of doing meditation. So
yeah, and that's kind of the topic that we're on, right? It's meditation. Okay.
So I don't know. I needed to have some guided meditation in my own. Yeah, it's I needed to be able to focus on certain things, because if not, even when you're thinking, and a lot of people have the issue of when they first get into it, their brain's going a million miles a minute, like mine is, always. I got bored.
I probably would too. I'd be like thinking about recipes and just
you start to just, I mean, you have no sense of time lapse.
Right.
And once you have completely blocked out all of the other senses, you stop being able to focus on this itch, this one thing, and you get really comfortable, and that's when you stop feeling your body in the water. Like, I lost an actual sense of where my body was and where the water was for a period of time. It wasn't like the whole time. I'm sure that's the goal.
Okay.
It took me figuring out how I was laying there and everything, and it was just kind of like it forces you into that state so much faster than, for me, sitting is uncomfortable, and then I'm laying, and then I fall asleep when I'm laying. I really would be surprised if you fell asleep.
I was going to ask if you felt any desire to just like drift off into
Not
Snoreland.
at all.
No? Cool.
It really, I don't know, there's no resistance on your body, there's no weird pressures anywhere, so you're really comfortable and relaxed, but you still know that you're in water. I mean, like, your conscious state is still aware that this is not a safe place to sleep. I mean, some people might be capable of doing that, but again, I think you will jolt yourself awake pretty quickly.
Fear of drowning,
and then, like, you can't really drown in there. I mean, like, it's so shallow that if you jerked around, you'd hit the bottom, like your knees would hit it before.
Yeah, but you'd still inhale a buttload of water if you do pass out and your head tilts to the left and you like inhale. You know, that's a scary.
It could, yeah. Thought, so I think that probably kept me in a state of letting, because there was a point where I did like almost jolt. I had a jolt. It wasn't like I was actually falling asleep, but it definitely was in that moment of not being able to tell body versus water, and I just had to like regain some sense of where I was, because I was getting really hot. I was getting really just, I don't know if it was like a panic. I wasn't panicking, but it was such a surreal state that I didn't want to maintain it for so long, because it was just, I needed to gain some consciousness back, and then I was able to kind of slip back in and out of it once I got that state figured out.
Okay.
So that was really interesting. When you're in other states of meditation, a lot of times I think you're trying to gain access to that point. Yeah.
I love that shit. Okay, sorry. Go ahead.
No, I mean, like that. I love those dual vocal cords. Very cool. I think I would have actually enjoyed it more if there was some audio to focus on, to be honest. Like, you start out and there's some audio.
But then it wouldn't be a
sensory deprivation. Right. For me, and that's kind of going into the meditation styles. I like having something to focus on, and there's a lot of them where it's absolute silence and it's absolute nothingness and contemplating on just being blank. And I think that's called effortless presence meditation. There's like 3 different main types of meditation.
Okay.
It's focused attention, open monitoring, and effortless. And when you're in a float tank, I think you lose the ability to do the focused attention and the open monitoring, because both of those are about...
Yeah, that makes sense.
And you can do your own internalization and reflection, which is nice.
Facing your own demons.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But if you... I don't know, if you're not... I wasn't able to, like, I got to the point where I was trying to think, I was in a mental block where I was just like, I was getting stuck. It's like, all right, I've thought this over in every direction I can right now. So I had to just like keep going on to next thing. And then that took about a good half of the time.
Okay.
So I think it was nice in that sense, but I can get that in a nature walk as much as I can as sensory depth tank.
Okay.
So I don't know. I think it would be interesting to have different options available to you.
I've never experienced anything like that. I'm intrigued. I would try anything once.
I definitely suggest doing it. And the skin felt great. Like, you feel like the absorption of all that salt and everything. Like, it felt really good. My skin felt tight and stretchy afterwards. Like, I needed a lot more water, but it felt kind of cleansing.
Yeah, I think that would be one mental block that I'd have to get over. Is I actually like natural water. I'm not a huge fan of salt water. And, you know, it's goes beyond the fear of sharks, you know.
It definitely doesn't feel like
it's just
ocean
very
water.
drying. It's just very, very drying. But I mean, if I work with salt a lot, but it's not mixed with water. So, but knowing that that's what it takes, and I think it would be more of a.
I know there's some health
spiritual
benefits to it in moderation, I'm sure.
Oh, yeah. I'm sure there's a buttload of them. I think with going into it, thinking about just even those three things, you know, the two elements of the water and then the salt. And
that was really, because we did that on the full moon, too, which was really interesting.
But just the sensory depth itself. I mean, I've been working on certain types of sensory depth for as long as I can remember, and it's neat that you went through that because it takes everything away all at once in comparison to, you know, my friends used to think that I was crazy, and it wasn't like some conspiracy theory or anything fucking weird, you know, that crossed my mind, but I used to blindfold myself and walk through the house without eyes, you know, and I would do this over and over and over again. And I didn't know why. It was actually very comforting doing it, just because I felt more in tune with the house itself. And that may sound completely crazy, but
I get it.
I knew how many steps it took from the couch to the doorway. And all this stuff, which actually led to other things in my brain. It's like, okay, so, you know, I tend to be an overly cautious person at times. And it was like, okay, somebody breaks into the house and all the lights are off. And I can't see. I know exactly how many steps, you know. So just stupid little sensory depth things that I've done over time too, and it's cool too because it applies to everything else that we do, and when it comes to meditation and scrying and everything else,
hyper awareness, and like I love that idea of doing that, trying to accentuate the other senses.
And it absolutely does. It's, you know, I used to work with a lady that was deaf, but her other senses were incredibly heightened. And it was like, that is just cool. I mean, being around somebody who is lacking one of our senses, it makes me appreciate having all of mine.
Oh, yeah.
But at the same time, it's like, dude, you know, I wish I could smell as keenly as you can, or something like
right.
that. So because I can't, on an everyday basis, you train yourself to be able to do it by taking away one of your senses.
You know,
so your depth tank is awesome.
There was a podcast that I was listening to a while ago, and there was a woman talking about how we can train our senses to be stronger, even if we're not depriving the other ones. And I think that it's about trying to put stress on those senses so that they have to, kind of like in neurology, where if you block the path of a neuron, it's going to have to force its way to build a path in a different way. So if we do that with other senses, we're going to possibly be able to develop that in a stronger way. I mean, like we had a blind neighbor in LA, and she could hear everything. She was like a bat. It was awesome. And yeah, I mean, I definitely love that idea. I'm not the greatest meditator in the world. I'm still trying to figure out my better tactics. I really like guided meditations.
Yeah, I'm one of those types of people that, you know, usually I'm pretty slow-paced for the most part. Being a strong earth sign, I'm not real quick like your typical fire signs and stuff, so I tend to move at a slower pace. However, when it comes to meditation for me, I find... Well, I'm not going to say that I find meditation boring. When I first started understanding the whole concept of meditation, meditation,
Nobody got time
it was like,
for that.
I'm like, how fucking lame is that? You know, I'm going to fall asleep. You know,
Sitting here, doing nothing.
Just sitting here, right. I could be like outside chasing butterflies. I don't know, just stupid shit. You want me to do what? And just, I could not grasp the concept of just sitting still for that long a period of time. So I kind of avoided even working on meditation for that reason. But then something told me that you could have fun with meditation. And it's like, oh, okay. I appreciate, you know, hearing that voice. And so I pondered a little bit deeper on it, and I went within to ask about, what is it that you mean that meditation can be fun? So the things that I'm saying don't come from textbook.
Right.
It was things that came to me and I actually applied and were a lot of fun.
Some meditation of some sort?
Well,
in a sense.
In a sense.
I have a very broad spectrum title of that word, not literally meaning that.
Right. No, this is more of tapping in, but yeah, we'll talk about that in a little bit. But even with, like, your experience with it, with your depth tank, and I think that's really cool, and I want to try that. I had, my husband and I had an experience, too, that was different, where yours was submerged in water and salt. Ours was heat.
Nice.
And we attended a Lakota sweat lodge, right? And it was for healing. And this is like 5 or 6 years ago. And we weren't very familiar with anything that was going on, but we were intrigued with the whole ritual of it and the people that attended the sweat lodge. And we were told how the sweat lodge worked with a number of stones placed within the sweat lodge. The more stones, the more intense the heat. But after the whole ritual that took place before we actually entered into the lodge, we were talked through as to what to expect and what to do once we were inside. So again, following ritual with certain directions and movements, the Lakota rituals that they follow. When we went into the lodge itself, which was actually very low, what was it? Maybe about 3 feet. You actually had to duck your head to get. No, we did. You're right. We had to crawl in on hands and knees. And then you had to circle the perimeter of the inside of the lodge and then take your place. And it started as an outside ring of people, and then people would continue to flow in, and then they filled the center. So there were like 3 rings or 3 rows of people. And then once everybody was in, there were some prayers and stuff going on. And when they closed the flap, you could not see your hand in front of your face.
Just smoky?
Pitch black. Ooh. The blackest of black. And it was really cool. Ooh. Then they started bringing in the stones. And, a lot of us have been to clubs, saunas, and that kind of stuff where you can control the heat. No, we were in there for how long? At least an hour? Yeah. And they were saying, and we weren't allowed to wear jewelry.
Right, because it would burn you.
It would seriously burn you. It got that hot.
Did they give you blankets or anything?
No.
Were you bare-skinned?
It was... They have rules, which we respected, and the men, if I remember right, so correct me, Shay, if I'm wrong, the men were allowed to go in without a shirt, correct? The women, however, number one, you could not enter the moon or into the sweat lodge if you were on your moon. Okay, because they strongly believe that any female on her moon is intense power. So we weren't even allowed to sit into the ritual ring. Right. If you were on your moon, if you were having your period, you had to sit on the outside. You definitely were not allowed into the sweat lodge. The females dress code.
That's probably good health wise too. I'm thinking it might.
Well, they didn't think about it like that.
No,
it was more the intensity of the female power.
Yeah.
The other thing is that the females, you could not wear like spaghetti strap top.
Right.
You did not want to wear a bra with any type of underwiring because again,
burn.
Oh my gosh. And the t-shirt or whatever that you'd wear, it'd have to cover your shoulders. Mm-hmm. You could not expose your midriff. And we had to wear, I think, shorts or skirts at least to the knees, I believe.
Kind of like a respect thing?
I believe so. Yeah, the females definitely had to have more clothing on than the men.
It's not surprising with Lakota traditions. A lot of them are very specific on roles like that.
And that's, I'm not saying
anything pro or negative. As far as I can tell from what I've read.
It was pure respect. Whatever they said, I was just blessed to be there. But back to the inside of it, it was so incredibly intense in heat that, now mind you, you're in there for a long period of time and you're going one by one this, again, was a healing ritual. So one by one, and you can't see who's talking. You just know that the person beside you is starting, and then once they're done, then you start, and then, it goes on around the circle. By the time it got to me, it was just like, I am so hot, I'm going to puke. You can't bring in water, you can't bring anything to drink. But you verbalize, what it is that you want the spirits to help you with.
Right.
Another reason why we were not allowed to wear jewelry, not only the fact that it would burn your flesh, was that shiny things.
Attractive.
Scared spirits.
Oh.
So they didn't want to see it. You had to take all that off. By the time we were done doing, expressing, affirmating our wishes and our desires and stuff, and we went around and they continued to pile these stones on, and we were only in a halfway hot one. I think we did like 5 or 6 stones, maybe 7 or something like that. Do you remember? Was it 5? I thought I was going to die. You were allowed to lay down. You didn't have much room, and there was about a ½ inch of cool air right there on the dirt. And you're just like sucking it in like a fish, trying to breathe through water. It was intense. I would probably have a
panic attack in that. I don't do well in crazy heat like that.
It was amazing. I never got to the point where I was hallucinating or anything like that, but it was thick. It was thick with energy. There were a lot of people in there, and the craziest thing that happened was, this was like on a summer day that we all went in, and the amount of energy that we raised in there for the healing and all the stuff that was going on, that it actually started to hail on the Sweat Lodge.
Wow.
It hailed, and this wasn't like a thunderstorm. It was just like
random hailstorm.
Right. And how long did it last for? It was kind of freaky. It was really neat. About 10 minutes? And then before we actually left, it had stopped. Oh, but it was just like that.
Unleash all of it.
Yeah. It was like, okay, the spirits are screaming to us right now. But I don't know. There are so many different forms, and you shared your
those
death
are two, like
and,
the extremes on one end and another. I mean, I looked up just some basic health benefits and everything, just because a lot of people, I think, are now starting to come around to the idea that meditation actually is physically beneficial to you, and not just a mental, hiatus for whatever. You're not just sitting there thinking about nothing for the sake of killing 10 minutes.
Right. Trying not to fall asleep.
Yeah, I mean, that's the greatest goal on my end half the time. But, I mean, it's supposed to, like, WebMD, of course, they're not, it's not the guru. And there's studies all over the place. And this is where, I mean, even
you can do it.
I can do this. It's words. Take everything you read online with a grain of salt, even with WebMD. Yes. That's all I'm trying to say. But as studies are coming up, even though John Oliver is not a big fan of them right now, I don't care. Studies, we'll keep trying to find this out. Maybe eventually we'll all come to the same conclusion. That, it can help with different things like fibromyalgia. It can help with psoriasis. It can help with pregnancy, keeping the blood pressure low.
You can freaking heal yourself through meditation.
Yeah.
We still work with doctors.
Right. Absolutely. Big disclaimer. Do not...
Become your own self-physician. Yeah. No, we still work with doctors. However...
Good preventative care.
Thank you. You just read my mind. It is preventive rather than corrective measures.
I think we were chiming this about last time or whatever. Well, anyway, one thing that I really liked, and this was actually from the Huffington Post, and I do like they do a good job with their sourcing and everything, is they were saying that it can change the brain. And I mentioned this earlier about how the neurons would be able to create new pathways when they are exposed to different stimuli. They're saying that meditation and having those different, just the thought process changing and not doing your normal day-to-day life will create more bridging between those neurons and helping you think differently, look at things differently, perceive things in a different way. I mean, there's studies that will say that certain plants will assist with that. I'm not going to go too deep into this, but there's, natural, safe, unaided ways. I mean, you can do extremes like what you and I did, but even taking those 20 minutes to just clear your head, or I've got an entire list of all the different kinds of meditations that you could possibly want to. And
Right.
there's a lot of different options for everybody. And even if you can't just sit there not thinking about anything.
Well, a lot of it is, too, is we get so stuck in our everyday being human mode that we don't understand why we're out of balance. That's because we are trapped in the human mode. And this gives you, it gives you an opportunity to regain that balance. Because if you're so concerned with finding answers in the external realm, you're going to eventually be beating your head up against a brick wall. You will not find all the answers out there, especially the answers that are good for you. The answers that are good for you come from within. So you have to stop looking for external knowledge, and you need to take that time to sit down and go to where your
It's like
your
you're
true
talking to me
answers are.
directly, but
No.
it fits very well for me. I'm hoping a lot of other readers out there are getting this message too, because it's a really important one.
Well, and, to get good at meditation really helps you get stronger with magic, too, because just bringing the human realm to spell work, it's only, that's going to be a huge roadblock. So, and I'm not saying that if you don't meditate, you can't do spells. No, that's not true. All I'm saying is that you will have clear understandings to things.
It helps
more
with focusing.
focus.
Yes,
Very
Mind
much
meld.
focus.
Focusing your energy, especially if you're trying to imbue your power, your energy onto something. Way easier to do it when you can keep your mind clear.
You will also learn some endurance because it takes some patience, some self-discipline, not to pass the fuck out and start drooling on yourself
Or
when you're
ignore that
attempting
itch.
to meditate. So all these things you do apply to magical workings as well.
Question. Would you consider grounding a form of meditation?
Sure.
Okay, so
Absolutely.
just because that's another thing that I love and feel is necessary.
Centering, same thing.
Okay, so
Yes.
everyone, so we have all these multiple terms, but I mean, like for me specifically, grounding I find effective because it involves visualization.
Visualization.
Thank you.
Gotcha.
Wow. I need to stop drinking sugar. I think my mouth is getting all crazy. But that's a huge one for me, and being able to just kind of tap into earth energy, universal energy in a way that I can see it really helps me focus at first.
Right. And see, for somebody like you, who is a very, very strong fire sign, I think that, and this is just opinion, if your mind is constantly racing because you are fire, something that would help somebody like you would be to work with more grounding type. So meditating with trees, with plants.
I do very well with that.
I love meditating with plants.
It sounds like witch talk.
It is witch talk, and it's actually a lot of fun. Whereas
Or a
somebody,
float tank where it's water and earth
right,
and salt.
you are forced to ground, which helps maintain your balance. Whereas sometimes I get a little too grounded, being a strong earth sign, where I need to maybe meditate with some fire.
Nice.
Okay? Most of my subconscious taps in for myself around water. Big time. So I don't really meditate much with water. Not meditate. I scry with water.
Right.
But we'll get into that. That's our next topic.
Shortly.
Big difference. So I myself, I like to meditate with fire. And it helps perk me up. Then that gets my balance.
See,
a
that's
little more.
funny. I would say that water perks me up because it makes me all happy and light, but when I'm by a fire, I'm so centered. I'm so in the zone. I'm so clear-minded and content. Like, that racing doesn't happen nearly as much because all I want to do is stare at that fire.
Well, then, then you get lost in it, and then you start scrying. But again, you gotta.
That's just accidental. I just end up staring at it all night.
But some fun ways to meditate too. For those of you who really don't know what to do, one of the things that I suggest to a lot of people that come into the shop and we're expressing that kind of music. That's not really. Yeah, it's music to me. All right, I fucking love that
Tibetan
stuff.
monks.
Yes, that's one of my favorite types of things to
I
love
love
to
listening
when
to those guys.
that or drums, but because I like touching things. I cannot just sit still for very long. So in order for me to help focus exactly what I'm doing, that worked was meditating with a plant.
Okay.
Okay, and I don't know if we've talked about this or not before.
Not into depth, I don't think.
But it's understanding more of, okay, your dominant hand is your giving hand of energy, whereas your non-dominant hand is the receiver of energy.
Right.
And I'll either do this with a plant or an animal. Okay, but we'll start with plants first.
They're a little, one, they'll stay put.
Well, but see, this is how you can test how well you're doing with it. After you ground and you center yourself, because we have different ways of doing it.
Right.
Focusing on the intent of, okay, I'm going to open my mind and I'm going to work on flow of energy through this meditation. So I will actually put my receiving hand on a leaf, or in the soil of that plant and allow it to come through me. And feel it, literally feel it flow through me, through my hand, up my arm, through my chest, and out my right shoulder, because I'm right-handed, so that's my dominant hand. It goes down to my right elbow, down to my right wrist, and out through my fingers.
Like you're creating a complete circuit.
It is a completion of a circuit. And that, to me, is more of a fun type of meditation work. A lot of people will disagree and say that's not meditation at all. Well, I say that it is.
Energy work of some sort.
Right. And it's getting me back into where I need to be,
As long as you feel like you're reconnecting or opening up the third eye or having I like what you had said before about just being able to step away from your human world in one way or another, whether it's, doing energy manipulation, if you're playing with a sideball by yourself. I think that could be, that's how I started. And then I started moving on to plants, and then I moved on to living beings, and it just is progressing into more complex stones too. I mean, if you are staring at a labradorite stone, which I end up, gazing at super long, and then I get lost in that, and that I think that gives that focused attention meditation where you can like really stare at it, and then you get subconscious. Your mind's allowed to wander while you're still staying focused on something.
When I was talking about plants, and I kind of said the word animal, another really, really fun way to test how you are doing, because a lot of us need some proof.
Right.
Is this really fucking working? I feel like a dork. I'm sitting here and playing with plants, and I'm telling everybody that I'm meditating, and I don't know if if any of this is really
that
working
self-consciousness
or not. Right.
comes in.
So if you kind of do this thing and work with your plants and allow them to communicate with you the best way that a plant can by feeling the energy flow, you can actually do the same thing with animals. So, say for instance, you have a dog,
right?
All right, and you know how they can pick up on your energy easily. So, you are feeling really, really down, and your dog is all hyper. It's like, "Mommy, I love you. I want you to feel better." If you actually put your hand on your receiving hand on a hyper dog when you need a pep, you will actually start to feel more hyper.
Right.
It is actually really cool. You can suck it up, but you have to pull that energy in through your receiving hand, and it will affect you. The same thing holds true if your dog is being really hyper and you want it to calm down. Fill yourself with that calm feeling to the point where you're oozing, and put your dominant hand on your dog with firmness. I'm not saying to grab it,
right?
And I'm not saying to just lightly tap it. No, you need a nice firm connection, and push the energy that you're feeling into the dog, and you will actually watch your dog calm down.
And none of this is harming the dog or anything.
God, no.
Well, just so people know that you're not sucking, you're not vampiring off your dog or anything. You're able to just kind of, how are you? You're not depleting your dog is what mainly the only thing that I want to point out.
Everything that we do, we are exchanging energy. This is, it's kind of the same thing even if you hug somebody. If you hug somebody the right way and they're feeling down, by the time you're done with the hug, they actually feel better.
Mm-hmm.
Okay?
That's even science has proven that one.
That's the point that I'm trying to make, is that no, you are not harming anything by doing this. The only harm that you can actually do, and if you need more proof, as to what you're doing is working or not. And we're going to get a little mean for a second, and we're not talking about animals, but you can take a plant and you can kill a plant by doing the exact same thing, of filling yourself with rage and anger and blackness. And you don't even have to say a thing. You push all of that feeling out of your dominant hand into that plant, and you will kill that plant. Not in front of you immediately.
Yeah, it's not going to just wither up and die.
Right, exactly. But if you do this every single day, and not deprive it of water and sunlight and everything else.
Yeah, you can treat it as regular.
Right. But that is still learning how to tap into your mind.
I'd say, I'm sorry.
Go ahead. No, go ahead.
I just wanted to add is I'm sure the smaller the plant, the younger the plant, the easier it's going to be able to not be able to handle filtering all of that negativity.
Absolutely.
You try doing that with a giant oak, it's going to take...
No, an oak can take you plus an army of people.
Right.
And an oak, yeah.
Little itty bitty house plant, not so much.
Right. So those are, they're kind of cool ways to really start working on the flow of it, and then plus you can actually see results from it. For people like me that actually like to see what I'm doing is working.
It's gratifying too. I mean, you are taking some time out of your day that you can be doing something else.
Plus, I mean, even when we do spell work, we have to go into it with no fear, no doubt in our hearts. So by practicing certain ways of physical, meditation and getting some results, and you actually can see that, and then you take it a step further, it boosts that self-confidence, so that you know that when you put the spell work together and you raise the energy and you release it, that shit's actually happening.
You have that faith in it already.
Right. So that's one of the reasons why I feel as though meditation is extremely important, not only to make us healthy as individuals, but for those who do practice the craft, it is such a huge tool to making you that much stronger in the craft. Does that make sense?
I fully, yeah. And whether it's Eastern culture, Western culture, you've got, everyone knows about the Buddhist monk who can meditate and do whatever, and that concept has been going on forever, it seems like, but I like looking at that as there's so many people out there that have always been in the mindset of having that time to meditate, and you look at the health of the people that do that consistently.
Yes,
I mean,
it's a big difference.
It's a huge difference. I mean, yes, their diets can be different and everything else, but there's not those same heart issues. There's not those same. There's different kind of stress levels that are occurring for different reasons. But most people that are shown to consistently meditate are happier and healthier, it seems like. I agree with you completely. It just makes a huge difference. It's a real good way to purge too, more on a spiritual level type purging, because even when you had brought it up about certain ways that you ground and center, whatever you want to call it, and I think that's one of the reasons why a lot of people like to meditate outside, is that to actually be on the ground, have that firm connection. You can sense it.
Right. And knowing that you are moving things, even like that little scenario with the plants or the animals, knowing that everything yucky that you got going on inside of you, you can actually push it out from you into the earth too. So that is very cleansing too,
it's cathartic.
And very much so. And even again, going back to spell work and stuff, you really need to do this shit before you go into a spell that requires positivity. You need some cleansing.
It's the sageless cleansing.
Yeah, pretty much. It's different types of cleansing.
If I don't, I will probably always sage before I do any major work. But before I try to do much of anything, I just try to get those hesitations, anxieties, stresses of the day, and just kind of block them, compartmentalize it. But then I'm able to just push it away and get rid of it instead of putting it off into a corner.
There was one concept that is actually kind of cool. When I think of grounding, I really like to ground outside, and if I can't be outside, then I pretend like I'm sitting on grass. And I mean, you see me 90% of the time I'm sitting on the floor, even if I'm surrounded by couches and chairs. I just prefer to be, ass planted on the floor.
Actually grounded.
Yeah. But when I actually ground, I visualize that I am becoming a tree, and I feel roots sprouting out of my butt, that just totally concrete me to the floor. And I feel this shit coming out of my hands, my fingers, and out of the top of my head. That's sexy, isn't it? Roots come out of my ass. Anyway, that's just, and I almost feel heavy. I
know exactly what you're talking about.
You're immovable.
It's such a crazy feeling when mine comes out of my spine. It feels like my tailbone literally stretches out and becomes a root. And just keeps going deeper and deeper and deeper into the earth until I'm connected. I go even into the molten lava point of it. And that's just the fire in me. I want that heat. I want that core of the earth and that energy source, because when I'm grounding that to that extent, rather than just connecting with just the earth, I'm also trying to gain that energy. So immediately I think of, all that crazy deep internal energy. But then I also have my third eye and my head chakra that's going up into the air and into the universe. I don't know why my hand has to be nobody sees this.
We're talking like Italians right now. Yeah, but as far as centering goes, though, there was I came across it, and I actually really liked it, and I tried it, and it's a neat thing to do, because I have to feel things. I can't just think about it and convince myself that I did it right. Again, it's more of feeling. And as far as centering, you'll hear people that talk about, okay, you're going to bless this salt, you're going to bless these tools, you have to fill yourself with white light, and blah, blah,
it's
blah.
It's very clinical after a while.
And it's like, okay, what the fuck do you mean? Where's this white light coming from? And shut up! Yeah, it's like, I don't understand. And there was, when you're, I'm not going to use the word meditation. I'm saying, okay, you've sat on the ground, you got roots growing out of your ass, and your hair is sticking straight up. You have become tree, and you're not moving anything, and you feel very well grounded. With your eyes closed and completely still, if you can envision a white light that comes from directly above you, and it's going to go straight through you from the top of your head all the way through the bottom of you, whether it's
like
coming
a rod.
Right, a metal rod. So it's impaling you straight from your head, coming out of your butt. I don't care. It's going straight up and down.
I've got the omen in my head now.
Right? And then after you have that perfectly clear, then you're going to have another rod that comes from either the left or the right, but it's going to come horizontally, and it's going to come from underneath your armpits, your left armpit, in through your chest, and out through your right armpit. So now you've got a vertical line.
I'm trying so hard not to think of Jesus.
And going through your chest region from underneath your armpits.
Supporting your arms almost.
It's just a white light going, it's like parallel with your nipples.
Okay.
It's like, woo, boobies. And then after you have that, okay, now this is a white light penetrating you. Then you've got a white light that's coming from in front of you that comes straight through that cross, the up and across, right through that center point, and leaves from behind you. So it's impaling you. Yep. So this line is coming from nipple to nipple, and this one's from head to asshole, and where it makes that cross.
Like the Vitruvian Man almost, like that perfect center.
There, that perfect center. So now you've been impaled 3 times by this white light. Now, that 3 right there, where all of them, that is where your white light starts. Okay? That is the birthplace of it.
Okay.
So then you visualize that white light getting bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger, and it just expands through the rest of your extremities. Okay? Through the remainder of your torso, down through your legs. So this light actually starts right there. And then the stronger you get is when you can actually push it out into your aura.
Yeah.
All right? Or you can direct it, when it comes to working with tools and pulling circles and that
letting
kind of
it
stuff.
flow and go in directions you need it.
Right. So centering is more of that for me, and filling myself with that white light,
Now,
to push it out.
Question on when you're filling yourself, are you also expelling things, or do you want to expel beforehand?
Expelling what?
Negativity and anything, because I include the white light filling, but I also have to envision the black, because there's no matter what. So I have to imagine that leaving me as I'm filling. So I wanted to ask you if you did that as well.
It really depends on the situation and the time frame that I have.
Okay. Well, yes.
So if I know that I have a lengthier period of time to dedicate to myself, for a nice hour of whatever, then typically what I will do is I will purge first.
Right.
Okay. Then that way I'm nice and clean, and all I have to do is focus on
Your vessel
the white
instead.
light. Right. Now, if I am in a pinch, okay, and I don't have a whole lot of time, and it sounds kind of crazy, so bear with me for a second, but before I do the white light thing, when I close my eyes, it's like I almost see myself filled with blackness, all right?
It's just
and
an
it's
easy
spread out all over the
visualization.
place. And I will push all of this in my mind's eye to the center of that same point where the white light would start with, okay? And then I actually grab it with a bag. like a fucking
bag?
Walmart bag, like I picked up dog poo.
Yeah.
So I've got it contained in that. And then when I've got the white light going on, then I will push that out.
That's the part that I think feels the most right, and it's that pushing action of getting it out.
Yeah, pretty much. It's
Yeah.
big old flatulent of shit. Yes.
I like making mine smoke just because then it's dissipating. But I like your little shit shit bag.
You like my shit bag. Thank you. Hey, we're all full of shit. I don't care how
Every
godly you
one
think
of us.
that you are full of shit. So, and even if you don't, capture your shit in a bag and push it out in one lump sum, then even if you were to realize that you're full of shit and you still get that white light right in the center, but knowing that as you're pushing that white light out, all of that black is being pushed out.
There's no room for
with
it.
Right, exactly. So, and you have to go through, you're burping, you're farting, you're making all kinds of fucked up noises.
And expel and...
I don't want to be near you when you're doing this, because that's just gross. But yeah, you definitely have to get rid of the black to be able to fill yourself with the light, and especially if the white is necessary, which it always is for the things that we do.
You'll feel so much better anyway, regardless of if it's needed or not. You're going to feel 10 times better at least.
And the exact opposite when it comes to coming out of doing whatever that you're doing. You're going to go through that exact same thing, where that white light that you have filled yourself to the point where it's filling your aura, when you sit back down, you're actually going to suck it back into you, right back into that heart part, that's part where it stemmed from, and then pull the rod out of the center. Okay, the white light's gone from the center, and then everything's in reverse. So then you pull the rod out from underneath your right armpit and through your left, and it's gone.
You're just kind of disconnecting.
You're totally disconnecting. And then the white light from your ass or wherever it came out, your feet, your butthole, I don't care, wherever it came out, up through your head. So everything's in reversal. I've heard of some people that don't even take that. They just bring the white light right back to the center, and they leave it there.
A little nugget.
They leave it right there.
That's what I'm more familiar with, because when you were saying you're disconnecting, it's kind of like, I like knowing that it's there.
Well, the reason why it's good to disconnect for people who aren't familiar with the whole routine of it is for it to become habit. So that
totally
you
makes
get
sense.
really, really good at, okay, I have to do this whole ritual, but by the time you're done, boom, boom, boom. After you've done it a certain period of time, you've created a trigger. So, when you are in a pinch and you can close your eyes, you can center like that.
Yeah, and it's great to have those practices, because it really is just about consistency and getting it, because you're not going to feel like it's an official thing the first couple handfuls of times, I'd say.
It takes practice.
And it's different for everybody.
It really is. And whatever way that you come across, hey, some cool jams, all right. Yeah. whatever method you come up with, that you read, that you hear from your friends, you know, that you see on TV,
Somebody else showed
whatever,
you.
try it and see if it works for you.
Whatever works best for you.
Because I back-traced it.
But, you know, the meditating and the grounding and the centering, they are all important. Like you said, LeFay, to not only your everyday health, you know, physically, your mental health, your spiritual health, but also application to spell work too. So,
which leads us into
our
final
cool
topic.
shit. We're going to talk about scrying tonight. Okay, so what is scrying? Scrying, you know, I think that scrying's kind of an intense topic when it comes to talking to a lot of people that don't know, you know, some of the ins and outs of some of the basics.
It's definitely kind of more of a level 2. You don't know about scrying unless you've been doing your research a little.
Well, and the cool thing is I'm actually going to bring up some stuff when we talk about this scrying that you don't really realize that you're scrying when you have been for a long time. But to get back to it, for the most part, there's a big difference between divination and scrying.
Yes. They can correlate, but they are different things.
Yeah, they really are. And when people come into the shop that are brand spanking new, we don't really talk about scrying so much because, and making that big difference between forms of divination, which is basically just different tools of looking into the future. Okay, that's what divination is.
Divining an answer.
Right. Where scrying is a little different. And I have a definition in front of me of scrying. And it says, excuse me, the deliberate act of perceiving events that lie beyond the range of the physical senses by using the agents of the unconscious mind. The deliberate act, okay? That is the
Not
key
the
word.
unintentional, random observations.
Correct. It is, like, even dreaming would not be construed as scrying because you do not go into a dream state being able to control, you know, what you're going to be able to dream. But we'll talk about that.
Yeah, it's like
you
you can hear my little light bulb pop up, and it's like, I'll hold it.
Yeah, I mean, and the reason why I say that I wanted to put that definition out is because you'll hear a lot of conflicting things when it comes down to the breaking down of the types of scrying, because there are a lot of them, you know, different forms of scrying. And some of the more common would be like crystal ball gazing.
Right.
Okay, that's considered scrying. Ouija boards, spirit boards, talking boards, whatever you want to call them. That would be considered scrying. Black mirrors. Okay, scrying again.
Fire.
Fire gazing. Yes.
And water.
Yes. Automatic writing is considered scrying.
One of the oldest was the Babylonian oil scrying.
Yep, and the Egyptian lamp.
Right.
Scrying. You can scry with wind, ink as well.
Is tea leaves considered scrying, or is that divination?
If you go into it with the intention of knowing, then I would consider that scrying.
Okay.
Okay. But believe it or not, pendulums
Fall under that category?
Yes, it does fall under the category of scrying. And I don't typically, when people come to the shop, I don't tell them that because I don't want them to link pendulums with Ouija boards. Okay?
Right, and that
Because
is kind of the scary other side of it.
Right.
There's the, you know, like the really, I wouldn't call them safe, but there's
different intensities.
Right. Okay.
of
Thank
it.
you. Yeah. And that's on one spectrum, and then you get on the other side of the spectrum. You
Right.
get the Ouija boards, and I mean, like the crystal
Yeah.
balls, kind of are on the one side again. So
Right, but you know that there are definitely different levels of intensity with scrying. Dowsing rods is considered scrying. Using dowsing rods, aura reading,
what about wands? Throwing wands,
throwing wands.
like the nine wands for divination, where you throw them and let them land where they will.
Now, okay, that I'm glad that you brought that up
Because I'm starting, my lines are starting to get hazy. So give me a little bit of a difference.
There is. Did you know that tarot is not considered scrying?
I never saw tarot fall under that category, so I need to find out where this line is.
Okay, what the two different levels of learning tarot. All right. Where it falls under the divination aspect of it is when because we all know that it takes a long time to learn the cards. Okay. And understand the meanings and everything else like that. And our brains go, and it puts it all together like a puzzle.
Right.
And then we decipher the puzzle
Okay.
off of basically what we've learned and the
Challenge
placement.
accepted.
Right. So that is a form of divination.
Right.
Now it turns into scrying when we actually release it and we get knowledge from a higher source. So have you, in your tarot readings, and I do the same thing. It starts off divination, okay? There's the spread.
Right.
I'm visually looking at it, okay?
You're logically putting the puzzle together.
Correct.
You're looking at your
Correct.
symbols and trying to figure out the
Right.
storyline, and you're in your human form still.
Human form, right. That's the difference. Now, afterwards, I'll close my eyes. I'm very, very quiet for a few moments when I'm doing reading for somebody, and I let all of that go, and then I open myself up, and then that is when this nonstop flow of information comes from. And the words that I use, they're still relevant to what I said. However, they're said differently, and they actually make more sense.
Right.
Because
It
it's
doesn't
not
feel like a
coming
script.
from me. Correct. Right. That stage of tarot. You understand what I'm
Yes.
saying? That
Yes.
openness. That is scrying.
And this is actually, you and I have talked about this. My process when what we do is different. And I've started to, I've caught myself doing it one way, and not out of wanting to break a habit, but because I wanted to allow myself that ingestion time. At the beginning, especially with my deck that I've had for so long, I think I was so comfortable with it that there was usually kind of an immediate, I look at it and there would just be a spew that would occur without me taking all the time to break it down and explain it. Because then I would be like, all right, this is what I'm getting immediately. I'd look at the big picture, and without trying to break it down, because I would, once I got into small detail, I am so detail oriented that I can't break away. But now that I know that I'm doing that, I'm able to take the time to ingest it, and I like the way it the read flows when you do it that way, rather than vice versa, because then you can go through and explain things a little bit easier. But yes, absolutely. There's that. I while they're actually doing the shuffling and everything, and while we're placing them, that's when I'm in that ritualistic meditative state. And I think that's why I would be so quick to jump the gun and go into that instant release of everything, because then I had to bring back the human.
Okay.
So,
No, that everybody does things differently. It's how it flows to them and through them. So, but you understand the difference between
Yes, and it makes
the two.
sense.
Okay. Now, again, I'm going to go back to that big key word in the definition, the deliberate act, okay, of perceiving events. It is, you are going to a source deliberately. This isn't just a random moment of meditation and then you go off and then you are gardening and then something comes to you. That's not scrying. Okay, scrying is in that moment,
Right.
where you are actually, you're going into opening up your subconscious mind, and I think it's a lot easier to relate to it if you think about self-hypnosis. Okay?
you're being put into that state where
Well-
you're ready to receive information from the universe in a way.
And our conscious mind revolves around our senses, okay?
What you see,
Smelling,
what you hear.
touching, feeling, hearing, that kind of thing. Now, when we scry, we open up, we go to the subconscious part of our brain for answers, okay? And then how it is given to us doesn't actually come in our normal senses.
It's symbolic most of the time.
Yes, exactly. That's why when you hear about crystal ball gazing or something like that, they talk about clouds or mists or shapes and that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
It's things that we don't recognize through our normal senses. So it takes a while to practice and get used to understanding what our subconscious mind is trying to tell us.
And to be able to focus on Especially with something like a crystal ball or a gazing glass or something where there isn't a whole lot of shapes being given to you. Like water, if you're doing it in something that's there's still something that you're going to see. Fire, especially, I think that's why I like it so much. There is constant change. There's morph. There's something to follow. But when you get into like a crystal ball, you don't have that given to you. So you have to really be able to interpret what your mind's eye is seeing.
And that's I think it's really easy to want to fire scry because everybody knows how hypnotic fire is. You can sit by a campfire and just, you're around 30 people in, you could hear a pin drop because everybody's just like sucked into that. It is very calming and relaxing. However, we have to understand that our eyes and our brains are programmed to make images out of certain things.
I actually have that name of what that's called.
What is that, the pyromancy?
No, apophenia is the human tendency to perceive meaningful patterns within random data.
Okay.
So that's the natural human response to want to see patterns. People see faces in certain things. Gamblers will see trends. Mm-hmm. So that's where I feel like this is important to know the difference between continual human behavior, things that are naturally going to happen, and intentional responses that you're looking for.
Right.
That's where I get my hang up.
It's, well, I broke it down here too. Scrying actually, just like meditation, it takes a while to be able to get good at scrying. Mm-hmm. It's kind of like learning to read aura. Mm-hmm. I don't know if you've ever attempted to do that.
Yeah.
Okay. You know that you can't just...
It takes a lot of time and patience and a lot of not questioning yourself, but having a lot of faith that you are doing the right thing.
Ain't nobody got time for this.
Yeah. It's the first difficulty in learning to scry is an attainment of a receptive state of consciousness. So it means that, even sometimes when we're sitting down, we're trying to meditate, and we just can't focus, It's like, I keep thinking about work.
I have an itch here. I have an itch there.
Right.
This noise is loud.
We're trying to tell our brain to shut the fuck up, that it's not important right now, and that we're going to go into deeper levels into our computer.
The gap.
Yeah. And our brain naturally wants to rebel. Mm-hmm. It's like, no, I want to do what I want to do. That's our conscious mind. It rebels.
The ego?
So, I don't think that it's all ego evolved. I just think that we are so used to being nonstop. I mean, how many different things are you doing every second?
Especially now.
What is going on? I mean, between breathing and blinking and farting and burping and, and twitching your finger. How many things are you doing
Everything that you
right
sense.
now? And our brain controls that, right? So we have to be able to make the brain shut off completely to open up to the subconscious mind. And then once we can do that,
reset your brain a little.
Then we have to eventually learn how to learn what our subconscious mind is telling us. So those two phases take a long time to do. Now, one of the kind of freaky things that you touched on earlier with different types of scrying is that even myself, I have a difficult time in understanding, because most of this can revolve around self-hypnosis. Mm-hmm. The bulk of this revolves around self-hypnosis.
Right.
But determining the difference between what is scrying through to you from your subconscious mind that actually knows everything that it needs to know.
You have the answers there. It is
tapping into the computer that knows all.
It's the High Priestess.
Yeah, pretty much.
Sorry. It's like, come on, that's cool. That's a cool little wraparound.
Okay, now where do we incorporate the fear of bringing into the spirit realm? Okay, now we're talking astral planes and everything else. And
other intentions from other energy sources.
And I think that because we could go on and on and on about that, why don't we not go deep into the whole astral plane as far as the spirits with spirit boards?
It's huge,
and
but there's so many different belief systems on, because you start having to put labels on things.
Well, there's a big difference.
Going into if it's the astral plane, you'll be being affected by this, or are you speaking to a ghost that are you speaking to a demon? Once we start labeling that negative energy, and going into those levels, I think that's where we get a little mucky.
Right. I mean, the things that you hear about spirit boards and Ouija boards and even crystal balls, there is a lot of truth behind why people warn you about using those forms of scrying tools. Okay, because there are definitely ways of tapping into more of a spiritual realm rather than the subconscious.
Right. You're not just being connected to, if you're not comfortable, or if you haven't made your area that you're practicing in and you haven't safeguarded everything possible, there is a chance that you're inviting other things besides just positive energy. Even if some people will believe that the divine or the scrying can be information from, you say that it's subconscious. I've even had people say that I'm getting answers from angels, whatever their belief system is.
But that goes to the other line,
right?
The other side of that line between scrying from your subconscious mind and getting answers like pendulums.
So that's called that's the divination side of things again?
This is, because this is intentional, okay? This isn't just a random thing that just pops into my instinct, just like, ooh, okay? Scrying was intentionally sitting down
and asking for information at that time.
Right.
Okay. So it's a time thing specifically.
And it is being able to, though, turn off that brain and allow the answers come from a safe place. I'm going to give you an example, okay? I'm holding my pendulum. I've been playing with it all night. Now, have you ever seen people that come into the shop that pick up the pendulum and they just like instantly start kind of like, oh yeah, look, it likes me, and oh, this means yes, and
waving
this means
their
no,
hands all over
and
the
all
place.
this stuff, and it's, and I would never blatantly come out and go, you're full of shit,
right?
Because I'm not going to offend anybody. However, when it comes to actually even working with one of the most simplest of tools,
it's
this
simply explained, it's a rock on a rope.
Right.
Mine. I'm speaking disrespectfully towards it. It knows that I like it quite a bit. But if somebody on the outside were to look at it, simply put, it's a heavy object on a chain.
Yeah, mine is a piece of crystal quartz attached to, what is that, about 6 inches of chain with a spider that
Some people don't know what a pendulum is, so I just bad visual.
You can make your own pendulum. I mean, we can just use this as a scrying tool. You can call it divination, you can call it whatever you want, but it is. You can use pretty much anything with weight. However, most scrying tools revolve around lunar-typed items. Okay, so say for instance, have you heard somebody say that you can attach a ring to a necklace and use that as a pendulum?
Yes.
You can use a key at the end of a rope and you have yourself a pendulum. The thing is you want it to be silver, because silver is a lunar color.
Right.
It is also the same type that reflects like a mirror. It's silver. Okay. So think of lunar type like things. I think I actually have a couple.
I love my pendulum now because it's moonstone.
It is. It's lunar materials used to aid in scrying. So,
that feminine, unknown energy again, subconscious.
That's what we're tapping into.
You want to just stay on that spectrum.
Okay. So even when it comes back down to, what we were talking about with people and like, they're like, oh, look, my pendulum is like, oh, it's, bleh. Unless you've been working with pendulums for a long period of time, I have yet to see anybody, with all sincerity, because I'm pretty good at picking up on, what people's energy. You cannot just simply pick up a pendulum and then 10 seconds later
have it all over the
all
place.
Figured out. No, it doesn't work like that.
You got to get to know it.
Because basically what it's doing is it is tapping into your subconscious mind and your energy field, and that takes a little while to do,
especially if you have I think it would work especially well with a stone, since it's got its own vibrational patterns and everything. It's going to be able to work with your energy fields, whereas like maybe a metal or something else might not be able to adapt as well. Is just a theory.
Yeah, every individual is different.
Yeah, some people are going to totally rock with copper or silver or wood or whatever works for them. But I'm thinking a gemstone would be also has that extra bonus of being able to do that.
Yeah, I mean, and just because if you haven't run out and grabbed yourself a pendulum from a shop, it doesn't mean that you can't make your own. They're just, it's not necessarily what it's made
yelling
of.
At you not to like, why aren't you plugging?
It's not what it's made of. It's actually how it's working.
Right, with you and your energy field.
And yeah, but something like this, again, it works off the subconscious mind, okay? And this works off of involuntary movement.
Right.
Okay, involuntary reflex. It's like breathing or blinking. That's involuntary. You don't think about it, but you still do it.
There's no way of being 100% still, no matter what you do.
Right. But the thing is with this type, if you were to ask it something, and you sit there patiently, it goes into the subconscious mind, and your body will give an involuntary little twerk a certain way, and that's actually your answer. Is this coming from a spirit or an angel? No, this is actually coming from your subconscious mind that knows the answer, which is actually really, really cool. So pendulums are probably one of the easiest forms of scrying.
It's got a very structured yes, no, maybe, or not maybe, but unsure or unable to answer at this time.
It's like a Magic 8 ball.
Yeah, it's really literal.
Mm-hmm. And
you can't misinterpret it a whole lot. I mean, while you're doing that, I just wanted to say that it's actually really cool with my pendulum, because there'll be points where I walk away from it for a little bit, and I know I actually even have it written down so I never forget it, but I won't remember what the directions are exactly. Like I just, okay, I can't remember it. So I'll have the notes there and I won't look, and I'll try not to cheat, and then I'll just go back and reconfirm with it. And I've been right every time, even though I can consciously say I don't remember if it's clockwise for yes or counterclockwise for no for yes, but I haven't been wrong yet, and I'll allow myself to forget that, because it's it's so ingrained in me that I don't want it to be on a conscious level anymore.
Yeah, but that's you getting to know your puppy.
Yeah.
You know your dog, your pet, inside and out. So...
I'm relieved to know that it's there, though. I don't have to search for that information. I know that it'll come to me every time I go to it now. It's well trained. It passed its doggy training camp.
Yeah, the only time that I've... The only time I've ever had to, really work hard with it again is when I forgot that my pendulum was in my blue jean pocket, and I put it through the wash machine and the dryer, and I freaked out, and it was pissed, and it would not respond to me for months, and I thought that I had killed my dog, and not literally, my real dog, my pet, but it eventually came back around.
Your scrying pet.
My scrying pet. And I don't know if that lack of movement was the fact that I was so devastated as to what I did to it that my subconscious mind was just like,
wasn't allowing you to do it.
You can't take care of anything, so it's not going to respond. I don't know why I did that. But I don't
hate you.
Oh, thank you. Please don't hate me. Okay, let's go back to the first difficulty in learning to scry. For people who actually want to learn how to scry, again, if you think of it more as a form of self-hypnosis... Okay, I don't know if you've ever really gone through self-hypnosis or if you've been hypnotized or anything like that.
I haven't had it done professionally. I have had my coven leader work on something like that, and it was kind of more of a group-guided self-hypnosis.
Okay.
I'm not the greatest at it. I'll admit it. I'm going to give myself a period of time where I allow... I've worked with the pendulum, so I will consider that, and I've started to play with that, but as when it comes to my giant crystal ball, I'm going to give myself, a good period of time where I can really dedicate to it and just really get that comfortable, because right now I'm not in the right mind state to keep that consistently going and get that into me.
And that's something where before you should even consider doing it, you need to tap back into the whole meditative, getting really good at your meditation skills again too, because learning to scry
I'm at that step
and understanding what your subconscious mind is trying to tell you takes a while. But just getting to the point where you can tap in so that they can talk to each other takes practice.
Yeah.
So when we talk about self-hypnosis, we're talking about more of doing something, getting to a certain level, and then assigning a trigger to that point of consciousness. Okay? So that as soon as I pick up my stone, and I gaze into it, instead of me having to work for it for 3 hours until it works, I can look at it, and within 3 seconds, I'm in an instant state of my subconscious mind being open. But the thing is we don't realize that our subconscious mind has been open once we have established a trigger.
I did that on accident. I have it's partially ritual and it's partially, I mean, like that's how I am with my tarot, but there's something about the beads on my tarot bag and I do that and I actually, that's okay, cool.
Does that make sense?
Yes. I totally know what you're talking about.
So, and this doesn't have to be an excruciating sit down having to learn process because like what I said earlier, we do these kinds of things all the time. And I'm, you know, I had my pendulum, and now I've got my witch stone out. I have a piece of labradorite that I absolutely love, and I call this my witch stone. I call this my third eye stone.
It's an
my
awesome,
meditation
stone.
And any time that I am about to do something serious, such as maybe hardcore, not only tarot as far as divination, but more of a scrying. Okay, I will focus on this. This is my crystal ball. Okay. There was one example that was actually kind of cool, one experience that I had, and I didn't even realize what I had done. Okay, if you want to hear about this. Now, labradorite, for those of you that don't know anything about this stone, it's reflective to light when you move it around. It's full of greens and yellows and blues and purples, depending on how the light hits it. And typically,
sometimes it's clear in certain lights. It can have like a foggy, grayish,
almost black, where you can't see through it at all.
Yeah, it's so cool to see it in different angles. Is one of my favorite parts about it.
Well, when I got my labradorite, I found a specific picture in it, and just falling in love with the stone, I would play with it. I would play with it often, and every single time I play with it, I would manipulate the light to a specific spot on this stone, okay? And I would hold my focus on that spot. I didn't realize what I was doing was I was going into more of a subconscious state of mind. I didn't realize I was doing it. And by continuously doing it, I had set a trigger.
Nice.
So when, you know, and in the beginning it's no big deal. And it took me actually about 2.5 weeks for it to really explode on me. And the experience that happened was I went to talk to a girlfriend of mine. And while I was waiting to be seen, I had my stone out. And I was just kind of like, yeah, da-da-da-da-da. And I did the same thing that I had always done.
Yeah.
And when she and I sat down to talk, I had this stone in my hand. And the craziest thing was shortly after our conversation started, I started smelling something.
You told me about this.
I started smelling something, and it became so strong, and it kind of freaked me out. And I stopped our conversation, and I'm like, do you smell what I'm smelling? And she's like, well, what does it smell like? And I told her, and she's like, no, I don't smell it. And now I look like a crazy bitch, because I'm running around the room. I'm trying to pinpoint the point of this smell.
Right.
And it smelled like Febreze.
Yeah, something really specifically clean.
Right, very much so. And I'm practically in her face, smelling her. We're running around. We cannot find out where it is. And then, no, it wasn't your flatulent or your belching or whatever.
There's no gases passing.
Anyway, come to find out, it was actually her mother was in the room with us. And just from asking questions, and because our conversation completely came to a screaming halt.
Right.
And I was obsessed with what the fuck is this smell? It's driving me crazy. I can't think of anything else, and it's all over me now. It won't leave me alone.
No.
Come to find out that her mom had passed recently, and then it was actually her mom. The crazy thing was her subconscious mind was not open to receiving the information of her mom being in the room with us at that moment in time.
If you don't believe in ghosts, you won't see them.
Mine was open. So she was all over me like flies on shit.
Right.
And although I didn't get any type of a verbal, saying,
Symbols,
okay,
right,
nothing
motherfucker.
like that. It was just something told me to tell her, okay, this is obviously your mom, and she's here, and she's very strong, and she's very happy right now. The even cooler thing about that whole experience was when I wound up leaving. Now, I had this stone in my hand for probably...
Receiving or...
This at the time was actually giving. Now, this is where it starts to make sense if you really think about it, okay? Because it starts from the subconscious mind and then it comes out, right? It was coming out of my, right?
You're just a filter at that point.
I was a filter. I didn't realize that this was happening. The smell that I was smelling actually came from my hand into the stone.
It smelled like Febreze for how long?
My stone smelled like Febreze. Even when I came home, okay, didn't I? My husband's sitting right here. I put my stone under his nose and said, do you smell this? Now, it started to dissipate, but he even said, yes, I smell that. What is it? And I'm like, I know I'm not fucking crazy now. This is weird.
It's going to smell like hand sweat if anything.
Yeah, it freaked me out so bad that I actually called my girlfriend and I said, hey, just to let you know, that smell that I was trying to explain, it's all over my stone right now. If I could put it in a baggie and save it, I could prove it to you. But by that point, the smell had dissipated. What I did was I scribed, and I did not realize that that's what I had done. I had played with a stone, okay, for a certain period of time. I did not know, but I trained my mind to a trigger point on that particular stone.
And you were at the right place at the right time in the right mindset.
Yes, and I wasn't thinking about it though at all.
Well, you were in a self hypnosis at the right time.
Yeah, and I picked up on how her mom, the only way that her mom could present herself was through one of my senses. So that, if you can relate to that, that's actually scrying.
So it's so interesting, and I think that's where people are going to be able to differentiate between that natural, that apophenia, or it's APOPHENIA, apophenia. But anyway, that natural human behavior to recognize things, because even Rorschach, I was so excited because Rorschach has a statement about scrying.
Okay.
So
tell me.
Hopefully everyone knows what a Rorschach test is, but he was the ink blot guy. So
With the little kids?
Yeah, well, little kids, big kids.
Okay.
I mean, like, he was just the guy that he was a Jungian and Freudian student, which, if you get more deeper into scrying and divination, you'll find out that those two had a lot to say on things. And even if Freud has been disproved with a lot of things, he did do a lot of research into the symbology behind human psyches. And we can at least...
Perfect.
Right, and he had at least some good, strong points. Anyway, Rorschach is his definition of it, basically, or how he saw it was, scrying is one way the brain processes and associates what it sees, as all things are part of the same patterns in fractalization and synchronicity.
Okay.
So he's pretty much pointing out the fact that you can see these patterns and you can see these, your brain's going to interpret these symbols and patterns and messages if it wants to come off that way. So what I wanted to get to was, even though there might be direct messages, how do you feel about the divining portion of it, where you're starting to see the patterns in things, or you're starting to see the synchronicity as it's occurring?
Well, number one, you really, really should start a journal of writing these things down and being consistent with that, because it's kind of like dream analogy. You don't really understand what it means unless you write, and you usually don't remember all of it anyway.
Right, it's nearly impossible.
Well, tough. You got to make time for that shit if you want to get good at anything. But it is finding that consistency, the patterns kind of thing. And as far as actually learning, and I hope I'm answering your question, but as far as actually learning what they are, where does the truth come from? Unless you're getting more of what would it be considered audio, where it actually speaks to you, because
like Joan of Arc style,
where you can actually hear things rather than smell,
right,
or
the vague symbols or
see. But most scrying affects us visually,
right?
Okay, we recognize it with our eyes, but not all forms of scrying do that. Obviously, with the example that I gave with the stone and the smell of it.
Hearing. Not hearing voices, but hearing things like fire or water or, certain things that you can, a lot of people hear oceans for certain things.
Well, there's shell divination.
Yeah.
Or shell listening or something. Remember when you had the big conch shell
Yeah,
or
and
that
listen
big
to the
seashell?
ocean.
Yeah, and you listen to it. That's actually a form of scrying too.
Because it's like
Listening
white
to the wind.
noise. Because, you're going to hear that constant blood rush thing. That's what you're hearing as the ocean. So that would make sense because some people do TV scrying where they'll leave it on the white channel.
Okay.
And
on that white fuzz.
Yeah, the
white noise channel.
Yeah.
Static.
I'm trying to think. I'm going to be a horrible horror movie person. What is that movie where Caroline is?
Poltergeist.
Thank you. I can even say her name, but so that makes sense that it's just that constant noise, and then you have to listen for the interpretation of something different, and your mind's going to want to do that.
Now, on that note, though, you have to be careful when it comes to knowing the difference between certain things, because and to actually go into a place and be able to open yourself up and sense energy, okay, and can't really describe what it is, why you're feeling the way that you are, and that kind of thing.
Paranormal investigators are very good at that.
But no, that's where I'm going, though.
They're good at to that level, is what I'm saying. They may only know how to do the sensing
If they're just
portion.
going off of the electronics, that is not scrying, okay? Being able to go in and actually say there's something here, but your subconscious mind, it can't clearly define it.
Yeah, I should... Maybe not the Hollywood ones that you're seeing, like, looking at this, but there are, there's usually the one that is in that group that's like, yeah, I can really sense something
that
negative.
That tends to be more
in
the
here.
medium rather than the people holding the electronics.
So, but right. I don't consider them to, like, a medium will sometimes even go beyond that. I think that a lot of the people that are at I think that a lot of people are capable of sensing that if they're ready and able to open themselves up to it. It's extra practice and extra steps that get you beyond that skill level, what I'm trying to say.
Anybody can do it. And when you spoke about the dude with the ink blots kind of thing, I actually read something about, and maybe it was him and maybe it was somebody different, but he was experimenting on children, okay? Young, before the age of 12, because that is when our minds are still more open to the subconscious realm. It's a very, very young age or right before death, when we're older kind of thing. So showing the difference as to the strength and the power of the subconscious mind and allowing these children to... I think that the scenario was, he's like, okay, see this ink? It was in water, okay? When you see the horse... come in, with a guy on it, you tell me, okay? So the child would sit there and start looking at it and really concentrating on it, and then as soon as the child would see it, he would convince the child to keep speaking. Okay.
What happens afterwards?
Right. Now what is the horse doing? Now what is the man doing? Where are they going? And the child would flow.
Right, and just be able to see it go immediately.
And this was not coming from the conscious mind. This was coming from the subconscious mind.
Right.
So that's how it's easier with children.
They can just fall into it. That goes into imagination. That goes into... it's a good and a bad thing, though, too, because that's where monsters in my bed come in.
Yes, absolutely. And that's the monsters and the Ouija boards, the monsters and the crystal balls. Are there... And I'll be perfectly honest about something, because I tend to be more of a logical girl. We all know that. Yeah. And I need some proof on things. Now, when it comes to the difference between, okay, let's say the self-hypnosis and getting really good to opening up the subconscious mind, asking a specific question, allowing it to brew for a moment, and then the subconscious mind responds in its weird-ever, forms that I have to make it make sense.
Right.
To come up with an answer.
You have to filter it in your way.
Between that and actually opening my mind and being directed by spirits and, being influenced, that kind of thing. Most of my... reasoning wants to say that most of scrying comes from the subconscious mind.
Right.
However, I do have a healthy respect for spirit boards and crystal balls, because I am a firm believer, not off blind faith, but from personal experience, of very dark spirits. Mm-hmm. Okay? So knowing, and nobody convinced me otherwise ever, that I know that they exist. So, and we don't subconsciously call upon them, you know,
right,
not always.
That second that you have a bit of doubt, that second that you know, regardless of all the protection you can put up, there's always that chance that even if it is just subconscious, there is that dark part of that subconscious that can rear its ugly head.
So I think that when it comes to people wanting to learn how to scry, you know, I think that if they start off with a simpler knowing that they're going to work on their own self-hypnosis, and it doesn't always have to be by themselves. You can work with a partner and get really good at the skills to be able to you know, to scry.
Yeah,
okay?
even being able to settle your mind down and get into that right state.
You and I did it with the shapes and stuff. Yeah. But anyway, between doing that and just knowing that it's only coming from within you and not asking for any other outside source.
Right.
I'm
knowing
not
what
ask
is
for
you.
guardian angels. I'm not asking for the ghost of the lady that died here. No. We're going to keep that completely separate. We're going to call that big boy, big girl scrying.
Yeah.
Okay? So before you get to the big girl, big boy scrying, start off with the more simple things. You know, like your pendulum.
Yeah.
Like working with a stone.
Fire is like a quick, easy starter. I mean, that's the one I'm comfortably doing accidentally and intentionally. That's the first hypnosis one. Like, that's the easiest one to go to immediately. And so now I'm going to pendulum, and
dowsing rods would be really, really good. A lot of fun. You're smiling. What do you think about when I said that?
Because he wanted to bring up how much he was not a fan of them.
Okay.
So I would love to, because he needs to hear. I actually understand it's the same concept as a pendulum. So it's again that subconscious, unintentional. What was it called? Micro movements.
Something. Oh, the involuntary.
The involuntary muscle
reflex,
movements.
Right.
Yeah, they're tiny little movements, and we're not saying that spirits are moving them. We're saying that you are
connected to the earth,
right?
And your molecules are connected to the dirt, which is connected to the water or the oil that is in the earth's surface,
right?
So as soon as your energy picks up on that, the slightest movement is what triggers it. You know, some people, it's okay.
Yeah, but I mean, like, I'm sure that his reasoning or why some people would feel so against dowsing rods is because it's been used to, like, locate children, or, you know, it's a little bit charlatan heavy. Like, there's a lot of people just saying that they can, you know, like the psychics that say that they're going to locate a missing person or something, and they're using dowsing rods.
I've never heard of it done with dowsing rods. Do I doubt that somebody... No.
I don't doubt the ability.
I don't doubt anything. Absolutely nothing. I know there's some really shitty people out there that are charlatans. You know,
it's the same thing with tarot cards. It's the same thing with any kind of psychic ability,
Akashic readings, or
talking
anything.
to your pet.
Right.
So I just want everyone, including my questionable one of our producers who doesn't want to listen. It's desperate ghost hunters. Okay, I guess that's where his
all the charlatans.
Yes,
we'll just keep it at that.
So,
but it is still dowsing rods, still fun to play with, you know, and they're super duper simple. So experiment.
It's not
with
hard to
something.
misinterpret. It's a very direct.
How about no?
How about you suck my ass and get off my back?
This
what
is
about
how we talk to them?
Nah. How about learning to read auras? That's a real good brain exercise.
That was something that I started doing before I got really into this. And it took a while for the visualization to kick in. Like, I didn't always see it. It was first just kind of I could sense it and just internally feel it.
Nah, see, that's not enough proof for me. I have to see it.
Oh, no, but that's where I kept working at it. So
Okay.
first it'd be like, I think you'd be this. Okay. And then I was still in my
Yeah, you were thinking too hard.
I was. And so then I finally let go of that and started just first visualizing and getting into that state. And then I was able to close my eyes and see it first, and then I would open it and see it. So it took that sensing them without seeing them, and then sensing it all together.
See, mine was completely different because, again, I have to have, when it comes to certain things, I have to have proof. And once I see that proof, then there's no convincing me otherwise.
Right.
And it was an exercise that I came across, and I swear to God, I gave myself brain bleed for about 3 to 4 days because it was really, really cool.
Yeah.
And all you wind up doing is taking, okay, say this right here, all right? White piece of paper. No lines, no nothing on it.
Right.
Okay? Pure white. Now, I'm going to take, like, a Sharpie marker, and I'm going to make a black dot right in the center of this paper, okay? And then I'm going to wind up putting this paper down on the table, flat surface. I'm going to form my hands into a triangle, okay? And then I'm going to put my hand, the triangle, over this dot. So when I look down at the piece of paper, all I see is the white paper and the
black dot
right in the center of it. Now, where the training comes in is that our eyes, that peripheral vision, that is our worst nightmare when it comes to learning to read
completely
aura.
block all of that out.
And it is fucking hard as shit. It is so hard because it is the slightest small movement of strain from that dot to your hand and you will lose it. Just like that. So it takes training, just focusing on that black dot. You know out of peripheral, you know that white is there. You know that your skin is there. But you are solely sucked into that black dot. If you can do that within even like 5 minutes, you will actually start to see color around your flesh.
There's a physical effect that's happened because I've seen this happen on like Facebook posts where it's like stare at this long enough and you'll see because the image underneath it looks totally different.
Right.
So I don't know what that's called, but you're right. It's that same being able to sense it.
Well, the cool thing is too is that because it's all like electricity and stuff. When you see it, it's not like this big 2-inch thing of colored rainbow.
Right.
It is like a pencil thin line of light tracing your skin, and it is electric in color. It is like electric blue or electric green, and it's really sharp and it moves.
Yeah, it definitely has the ability to expand and contract. And
Well, our auras are huge, but actually learning to see them, when you start, you'll see it, that pencil line.
Okay, see, I don't see it in a literal... I have to put myself in a very specific state.
Okay, have you ever tried it this way?
No, and I'm going to
Try
later
it.
on.
And it's going to take you days. Okay,
Yeah.
This isn't something you have to...
You'll see blood on my ears the
practice.
next time you see me.
You have to do it over and over and over again. Because, again, the hardest thing is to train your eyeballs not to stray. And...
It's hard.
It is practically impossible. It's not impossible.
You take
but
like
it
30
feels
seconds,
like it.
feels
You're
long
getting
enough.
a nosebleed. But you will actually start to see it. And what you are doing is you are actually opening up by focusing on that black dot. You are actually opening up that third eye. And you can actually start to see things that your normal eyes cannot see. Okay?
That totally makes sense.
So when you get really, really good at that, of opening your third eye like that and training your brain to see it, then you can look at somebody and hit that trigger, okay? Just like I did with my stone.
Right.
Hit that trigger point and I can look at you.
That's
and
gonna
you
be
will
the trick.
actually start to see somebody's aura. The color, the rainbow around them. And it could be small, but typically auras are pretty good size. They'll radiate anywhere from a foot to 2 feet off of them.
Yeah, and it can intermingle, and when you're in the same aura fields, you're going to have energy exchange, and
Right.
things are going to be affected, and...
But I never really thought that aura reading was considered a form of scrying. It actually is.
Because you're intentionally putting yourself in that point of being to interpret it.
Right.
So it's pretty much any information as well. It could be literal verbiage, it could be symbols, it could be just some little bit of a scent, or it could be somebody's aura, it could be you're sensing the energy. It's pretty much just making yourself ready to be that filter.
But again, yes, you are right, but you have to train yourself to become that filter.
Right.
It is extremely difficult
first you have
to
to
get
make
through
the
those
filter.
phases. It's the same way where, for instance, some people are very good at, let me see your ring. And then they will hang on to this ring, and then they will open themselves up. They've hit their trigger, and they will open themselves up, and shit comes out of their mouth about this ring. Where did it come from? Now we're starting to talk about attached energy, and we're talking about other things, but it is still a form of scrying.
Because you're just spewing.
Well, you're tapping into things, whether it comes from your own subconscious mind or from spirits. Okay, that actually feed you information. Because if this ring were not yours, okay, I've never seen this ring before in my life.
Right.
And I'm able to tell you the story about this ring simply by holding it. Is that coming from my subconscious mind?
Can't. You wouldn't have that information.
Exactly. So where is it coming from? That is a different form of scrying where I've actually allowed myself, I've already triggered, I know how to open it. I know how to keep it open. It's kind of like not losing that peripheral. Not losing that peripheral when I'm looking at auras.
Right.
Keeping it open.
Because you're going to hear things. You're going to have other things in your peripheral senses that you're going to have to ignore.
Right. Oh, plenty. But the more you do it and you train your brain, the easier it gets. So you can have distractions flying at your face.
It's good to start with meditation, learn how to ignore all of those things so that you can really open up. And then you open up your third eye and make yourself available. And then you learn how to self-hypnotize to get yourself into that state of mind.
Ain't nobody got time for
We
that.
did a whole
Scrying is pretty. I'm kind of surprised that we're doing scrying this soon in our podcast series because it is pretty intense. But anybody and everybody can learn to scry,
and you're doing it accidentally a lot of time, or a lot of people end up doing it accidentally. So at least now you know what you're doing.
And even I was talking to my husband this morning about this. It is kind of crazy because people with a moon sign of Cancer, okay, Cancer is one of the strongest water signs.
Is it? Is its decant in the first?
Just Cancer across the board.
Okay.
They actually make incredible scryers because it's all linked with lunar activity. Okay?
Right.
And on an everyday basis, I am very, very much an earth and air girl, being on a cusp. But my moon is a Cancer.
Nice.
And I never really realized this. Okay? But sometimes when I just needed to go clear my mind somewhere, so I'd go out in the fucking garage, I'd sit down and do absolutely nothing, clear my brain, smoke a cigarette, and talk to spirit. It's like, hey, this is what's going on in my life, I could use some help, blah, 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 and I really opened myself up to, receiving some answers through that. It was only when I was in or near water when shit came to me, clear as day. And usually it was when I was doing the dishes. Okay.
That's kind of a weird little meditative state to be in. You're very zen at that point.
I'm not even thinking about it. You know what I mean?
Right.
I'm just kind of like doing nothing. Something similar happened to me this morning when I was in the shower. I wasn't thinking about anything. Just like, boom, just clear as fucking day. It hit me. And it's like, whoa. I've noticed that more and more of these messages that I'm getting, come when I'm near water.
Cool.
But that happens to me all the fucking time. I never really realized what it was. It is a form of scrying.
That is cool.
Yeah, so it happens to all of us. It's just that we don't realize what we're doing.
Right, but then once you're able to catch it, you're able to start
harnessing.
Exactly. You can get actually ahead of it and start using it.
Yeah, the sky's the limit, and you can do some really creepy, crazy, cool shit.
It's definitely one that takes patience.
But for the time being, you guys, seriously, we're not telling you to go burn your Ouija boards or to never go buy one. We're not saying that crystal balls are horrible or anything like that because, shit, I have both, but I'm very, very cautious in using them. It depends on my mind frame.
Right. It's for specific use.
Yeah.
You don't grab that for everyday questions.
Newbies, work your way up. Work your way up the scrying tool totem pole. Okay? Leave those things where you actually have an opportunity to, be working with
put some mental blocks on and know yourself much better before you start opening yourself up to outside influence.
And I'm positive that in future podcasts we'll go deeper into that for people that are curious as to getting into some heavy duty scrying involving the help of angels or whatever it is.
We'll probably have a guest for that one. I've never I don't know that one well.
But as far as the everyday, and pick up a book on self-hypnosis. or pull something up online, because that is the beginning phase. That is how you learn how to get good at scrying. Okay, is actually through self-hypnosis. So you want more information, that is my suggestion to get you on a good start. What else? As far as, boy, that we kind of ended on something like a little heavy instead of lighter.
I know. I don't know.
All right.
I don't even have any, like I've got this little calendar pulled up for, like, events coming up, and even next month, it's kind of like, I don't want to talk about all the bad things that happen for witches. It's Litha next month.
Yeah, midsummer. Something to look forward to. I don't know. I'm trying to, like, pep it up right before we end on such a somber note.
There was much rejoicing.
But scrying's gonna be cool. Scrying is a really cool thing once you get good at it. And pendulum is one of the most... Getting to know your pendulum is one of the most fun things that you can do when you're first starting out, because it definitely... Learning its personality and getting it to respond to you is probably one of my favorite ways that I've gotten to interact with my toys.
And even, I'm going to take it a step back, even because there's a lot of people that are listening that are still very, very new to this, that it's like, whoa, okay, I'm just barely learning things, and now we're talking about rocks on the end of chains and talking to my subconscious mind, and oh my God, this is a little overwhelming.
It's deep. It's a deep.
Instead of, if you need to take a back step, because we talked a little bit about ambiance and, the clothing that we wear and that kind of stuff
to witch
put in
yourself up.
our witchy minds. Even when it comes to approaching things like scrying, to get yourself ready to meditate or to go a step further and learn to scry or something like that, keep working on your atmosphere. Take that cleansing ritualistic bath or that shower. Mm-hmm.
Put on something really comfortable that is, meaningful to for meditation, especially in the beginning.
Yeah.
I'd rather just be really comfortable.
I'd rather be freshly showered with my PJs on rather than high heels and denim, because you know what? You are not going to hit a good mental state of meditation when you've got a wedgie. It doesn't work.
It'll keep you awake.
Well, yeah, but no. It's like that focusing on that black dot for aura reading. You got
to be able to ignore
no distractions.
Everything else.
No distractions. And another thing is that, try not to be hungry, but don't be full. Don't be full, because now you're in a mental state and your stomach's gurgling and digesting, and you ate really gassy stuff, and the beans and the onions and the broccoli are all. Yep, there we go. They're just like, woo, all right. I was in a really nice place. Now I just grossed myself out and the room stinks. So that's a total mood kill.
Yeah.
Start thinking about things, one step at a time before I just jump into the deep end with things. Preparations as to getting to where you got to be.
Your audio, your candles, your
incense.
Do you want to have drums? Do you want to have vocals? Do you want to have something slow paced? Do you want to find a guided meditation? I mean, there's plenty of those on YouTube.
Right. So, I don't know. Keep working on that. And we'll come back to scrying again. I'm sure in the future.
It'll just come up, too, I'm sure. I mean, we'll be talking about so many of these different things at different times.
All right. Well, shall we wrap it up?
I think
for an
so.
Evening? Okay, well, we hope that we didn't make your brains hurt too much.
This was
it was pretty kind of a deep subject, but hope you enjoyed.
It's going to be a fun summer. I'm really looking forward to this, and we're going to have a lot of fun and interesting topics coming up.
Yeah, crazy year, good times. All right, we will see you guys. Well, not see you. It would be nice if we saw you, but we will talk with you guys again in a couple of weeks. We miss you. We love you. And
be safe.
Yep.
Enjoy that warm summer air. And
stay out of trouble. Try
always.
to stay out of trouble.
Stay out of big trouble.
Right.
Little trouble's okay.
Right. That's right. No more fighting.
No more getting caught.
Right. No. Okay. Yeah, okay. All right, guys. This is Feather
and LeFay.
And y'all have a great night. Blessed be.
Blessed
we'll
be.
Talk to you soon.
This was Season of the Witch.